So today I want to show you how to make challah. It is such a wonderful bread. It's a Jewish bread if you didn't know. It looks fantastic from all the platting involved, and it tastes fantastic too. And the bread itself is really nice and light, and inside it's so soft and fluffy. And challah, a day old, can make fantastic French toast. So let's get started. So first we're going to activate our yeast. So into 50 milliliters of water, heat it to 30 degrees Celsius. Sprinkle in 5 grams of fast active yeast. Then pour in 38 grams of honey. If you don't use honey, you can use ordinary caster sugar, but I prefer to use honey. Mix it together and set it to one side to allow it to activate. You want it nice and frothy and bubbly on the surface. Now get yourself a large bowl and combine together 257 grams of bread flour along with 6 grams of salt. Give it some whiskey business to combine it all together to make sure it's thoroughly incorporated. Then pour in your yeast and honey mixture, 2 whole eggs, and last but not least 30 milliliters of vegetable oil. Get your hands in there, mix until all the flour is nicely hydrated and there's no dry lumps of flour left. The dough will be quite sticky at this moment in time, but trust me, it will turn out smooth in the end. Tip it out into a clean work surface without any flour, then start kneading the dough. If you prefer to use a stand mixer, feel free to do so. I just prefer dough by hand. I like to be able to feel the dough. If you're doing it by hand like I'm doing the slap and fold method, which basically it's in the name. You just slap off the bench, fold over itself. It's the easiest and best way to knead a dough that's more on the sticky side in my opinion. And you're just going to continue kneading the dough until it's nice and smooth and elastic and it doesn't stick to the bench any longer. It will take about 5 to 10 minutes if done by hand. Then shape the dough into a nice tight round ball and lightly grease a bowl that's got plenty of room in it for the dough to expand. You just want to lightly grease it, by the way, you don't want to heavily grease it. Pop the dough in there, cover with cling film and let it prove room temperature for about 2 hours or until double in size. Now once the dough is double in size, remove the cling film obviously and tip the dough out onto a clean work surface. You don't need any excess flour at this moment in time. So now I'm going to find out the overall weight of the dough by placing all the dough onto my scales so I know how much the dough weighs exactly. Today we're doing a 4-strand challah, so I'm going to divide the dough into 4 equal pieces. The overall weight of my dough weighed out to be 452 grams, so I want each piece of dough to weigh 113 grams. This step just makes life a bit easier when it comes to the braiding process. When you're making challah, you can do a 2-strand, 3, 4, even 6-strand challah. But a 6-strand challah can get hectic at the very least, so I wouldn't recommend it if this is your first time making a challah. Now all the dough has been weighed out, we're just going to roughly shape it. Shape it into a rough rectangle, in my case a rough oval shape, then flatten it out. Grab the piece of dough first away from you and roll it up towards you, nice and tightly. So it forms it into a sausage shape. And that's it, that's how you pre-shape each strand. And repeat for the remaining piece of the dough. Then once you've done that, lightly cover with some cling film or a damp tea towel, whatever you prefer, and let it rest 15 minutes at room temperature. That's going to relax the gluten, which is a very important step. Now carefully flip it over so seam sides facing upwards, flatten it out, stretch it out a bit, and simply just fold it one more time, starting at the right, going to the left. Then using the palm of your hand, gently tap the dough to seal it together. Now lightly dust your bench with some flour and start rolling it out. Starting off slow in the center, working your way to the edges to create a tapered effect. Then repeat that for the remaining piece of the dough. Now we're ready for the next step, which is the braiding. So you're going to get all 4 strands and join them all at one point first away from you. Just make sure they're nice and stuck together and then tuck it underneath itself to make sure they never come undone. So now I'm just going to label each strand so I can explain it easier. A, B, C and D. First you're going to take strand A and bring it towards the center. Then get strand C and take that to the far left. Then strand D goes to the center and strand B goes to the far right. I hope this is making sense because this can get a bit confusing. I'm trying to make this as basic as possible. Now we're going to take C, bring that towards the center, and A goes to the far left and B goes towards the center and D to the far right. And now we're back to where we started. A, B, C and D. Just repeat this whole sequence one more time until you come to the end. And then when you come to the end, just join the strands together and tuck it underneath itself. And that's basically it. That's how you braid a challah. As you can tell, I am actually quite happy how mine's turned out. Next, get yourself a tray and lightly grease it and line it with some non-stick parchment paper. Make sure the tray that you pick has plenty of room for the dough to expand. Because by the time we come to bake this loaf, it's going to have doubled in size at least. So now the loaf is ready to prove. Me personally, when it comes to making a challah, I prefer to do the long and slow method by proving it in the fridge overnight. So I'm going to tightly wrap it in cling film just so it's drying out in the fridge. And from my experiences by letting the dough prove nice and slowly in the fridge, it develops a much better flavour compared to letting it prove room temperature. But if you find it better and easier to prove it at room temperature, do that. Do what's best for you. By letting it prove in the fridge, I just find it a lot less stressful. I can easily fit in my schedule that way. The next morning, remove from the fridge and allow it to cool up to room temperature. Take about 2 hours, and the dough will more than likely double in size during that time. And then now we're going to make a quick egg wash consisting of 1 egg to 1 tablespoon of water. Just mix it together until thoroughly mixed, and that's it. Nice easy egg wash. And just evenly brush it over the top of your loaf, but be careful because the loaf is very fragile at this moment in time. Then sprinkle over some sesame seeds or poppy seeds. This is totally optional, of course. And make sure your oven is preheated to 190 degrees Celsius. Once the loaf goes in the oven, immediately lower it to 160 and bake for 20 to 25 minutes until golden brown. If it gets a bit too much colour too early on in the baking process, just lightly cover it with some tinfoil. And now you know what to do. You bake it, you cool it, you slice in and enjoy it. And there you go. I do hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making these videos for you. If you did enjoy it, please drop us a thumbs up. And if you fancy it, please click subscribe, ring the bell to receive notifications so that you don't miss any more of these fun cooking videos. And I'll catch you guys later. Take care.